Okay, so in between videos, I realized this is actually going to be easier than I originally deduced. I thought that we were going to have to make sure that the note was hitting the correct success box. So we're going to have corresponding names between the note and the success box. And then I realized that as long as this box is sized and positioned so that it can only hit the corresponding note, then we don't have to do that. That if a collision occurs, then inherently the right collision. So to make sure that that's the case, shrink the success box down to like a 0.2x. And now it doesn't even need to be named success1 because, like I said, we're not going to have to match it up. As long as the collision occurs, we know that it's the correct one. So just paste this 5 times. They can all be named success. You can get the X location from the script if you want, because the X location should match the orb, but I'm feeling lazy, so I'm just going to do a top-down view and do it that way. And so it just should be centered with the string, which is centered with the orb, and that way accidental collisions should not occur. If it turns out that they are occurring, we can rethink this. It's easy enough to rename them, but like I said, I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to do this so as that the only time a success collision occurs is with the proper collider box. Okay. So now that we have the successes, that was something else that I said that I thought I was going to have to use a different script for each string. It looks like that we can use just one. The only thing we have to change what key is associated with moving it forward, because each one is going to have a different key. Like this is going to be using the number 1 key. This will use the number 2 key. And as I mentioned, if you're using a game controller, you would just swap out that code with whatever the game controller is that you're using. And this is really a pleasant surprise because sometimes game mechanics turn out to be more difficult. In this case, it's actually going to be easier. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the note control, and now it just needs to be success. So this was success1, just delete the 1 and change it to success. That way it matches the name of the collider box. Save it if you haven't already. Now we're just going to quickly whip up a particle system for when the notes are getting destroyed to confirm that this is working as intended, and because there should be some kind of visual feedback. Just having notes destroyed really isn't very satisfying. So game object, particle system, you can just call it burst, and we're going to make 2 of these. One will be red and one will be green. So let's change the shape to circle. For now, we're going to rotate it towards the screen so as that it'll be easier to tell if it's correct or not. And like I said, I'm not going to do a full breakdown of this. I'm just going to quickly go through it. I have other tutorials that give a more detailed explanation of how particle systems work. So max particles we're going to increase, rate we're going to increase, start lifetime decrease, start speed decrease, start size, okay, shrink the radius in. It's lasting a little bit too long, so let's make that like 0.6. A little bit fast, make that like 0.8. And let's boost the rate up a little bit more. Size of a lifetime, click on that, right click to create a key point, and then at take the last point, drop it down so it shrinks at the end. And let's get rid of looping, make the duration say 0.5, and let's see how that works. That's good enough for now. We can always revisit it later. So now we're going to copy that, paste it. We'll call this one burst R because it's going to be red. We'll call this one burst G because it's going to be green. We'll bring them both. Actually, we have to rotate them first. So we want that to be 0, and so okay. So that to be 0. So burst G, just drag and drop it. Burst R, drag and drop it. Delete the originals. Now what we want them to do is we want them to be instantiated. So we're gonna have the note orb instantiate them. So we're going to go into note control. I'm going to add 2 variables. So public transform, and it's going to be success burst. Public transform fail burst. And those 2 variables will show up now in the script section. So just drag and drop the new prefabs. So burst G is the success, burst R is the fail. We'll go back here, and now we already have staked out where the successes and the fails happen. So it's just a matter of adding to the pile, adding to the code. So instantiate. So if this is the fail, then we want 3 arguments: what is instantiated, where it's instantiated, and the object's rotation. So fail burst is what is being instantiated, where it's going to be instantiated, transform.position. What transform.position does is it grabs the position of whatever the script is attached to. This script is attached to the note. So that's what we want. We want the burst to appear where the note was. And then we want to use fail bursts rotation. And now we'll just copy that, put it into here, but we make it success burst and success burst. So again, that's the note control, the sections we already carved out for fails and successes. You're just instantiating the corresponding burst there. So now, let's see if I forget anything. So 1 and 6 are the first notes. So 1, 6, nice, perfect. So positioning is a little bit off because the explosion, the burst, is the diameter of the burst is larger than the diameter of the orb, so you see it disappearing into the object beneath it. So what we can do, well, we'll leave that for now. I don't want this to be a really long video, but what you can do is you can tweak this. Rather than just saying transform.position, you could say new vector 3, and then actually change the x and the y components of the transform.position. That's one thing you can do, or you can just make the explosion a little bit smaller. Even though it is, so even though it's a prefab, like I said, you can make changes. So like drop this down to say 0.4 for start lifetime, 0.4. We'll run it one more time. It won't be perfect, but it'll be a little bit better. So 1.6. I'll let the red go now. And the other option that you can do is, rather than being a burst like that, maybe it could be more of a vertical explosion. So let's end there. So we got a lot done. We've got the successes, we've got the fails, we got the visual confirmation of success or fail. So that was quite a bit for a single lesson, and we'll pick it up on the next one. Basically, we're going to do tracking next. So right now we've got the successes and fails. Next we need to track and say, okay, what was your percentage correct, what was your percentage wrong, that kind of thing.